voting and that type of thing happening. In most of these places, they have security. They have security to make sure that ballots aren't being brought in after a certain time they're checking. The front check here was only COVID and masks, and people were bringing in what should have been only 4 to 6 hour shifts, bringing in huge coolers, huge bags, suitcases, other types of things with no checks whatsoever, while coincidentally, at the very same time, we're seeing spikes in the voting count and all kinds of numbers going in one certain direction. So I will emphasize, it's not like any of these ladies ran over there and pried open one of the igloos or looked in one of the coolers or looked in one of the suitcases, but rather the lack of institutional security surrounding one of the most controversial districts and counties and voting locations is apparently null. And these ladies have actually tried to raise those issues there with election officials since this morning and have not been able to get any answers. They are being completely ignored. And it raises a lot of questions about what is happening for the institutional security at these key voting spots.
Well, so at absolute worst, it is complete and it's negligence, I guess, really.
Well, it's huge. It's certainly at the very least negligence, and what we're looking at here is an undermining of the trust that would have in that particular system. I mean, we've heard from folks on the left who are saying, oh, you know, how are we going to trust the system? How are we going to know what's happening? But even at the most basic security at main voting locations and vote counting, you're letting people come in and do things that really cast a question and a doubt about what's happening.
Legally, is that even allowed? Isn't there supposed to be a process to make sure that there are checks and security issues, you know, the security safeguards?
Absolutely. That's every single one of these locations is supposed to have kind of reasonable safeguards. And it depends on the location, the type of place. But if election workers are allowed, or people who are simply allowed into the space are not being checked, their IDs are not being checked, they're not vetted, the things that they have are not being vetted, then we're really raising a question in these particular jurisdictions, particularly when you see at somehow 4:30, 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning, a huge number of votes for one side, all of a sudden,
by the way, when they were supposed to stop counting.
Right.
We had to stop the because they said we're going to stop counting. And we're like, oh, I guess they're going to, and they said we're going to start again tomorrow at 10, I think is what they said. And then all of a sudden, an hour later, there's a huge spike specifically in this area. So you guys let me know when we have that person on Skype. But let's go to the, are we going to start with the videos or the pictures?
I got videos here.
Okay, so let's go to the videos. This is in Detroit. These are the ballots. But all these ballots for Santa Claus. Oh yeah, I know that spot.
These are pretty raw.
Yeah, these are pretty raw. So how long are these videos?
These ones 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. So let's, okay, right here, okay. All right, so let's look at this. So, okay. So right here, for people who are watching, again, we're just getting this. These are people bringing them in coolers. There's no one around.
Those are like radio.
That does not look like a bustling ballot counting operation. That looks
in the
like,
dark.
That looks like the kind of place where Hunter Biden would find his next fix.
And one of the things is there's, you know, certainly a lot to be happening. Wayne County has a lot of votes, but it's the dead of night. The polls have been closed for hours and hours. Where are these?
And they were supposed to stop counting. That's what they said on air.
Right. And what are they doing at this particular moment that they need these type of containers at this particular time?
Wow. Okay. Let's keep fast forward. What was that voice that I just
shows up white van.
Oh,
it's someone narrating.
On this little cart thing. See?
Wow.
There's been something out there.
There's just one guy. And he's not even wearing a tie.
So the person who's going to be logging in, her name is Kelly S., and she's a licensed attorney here in Texas, again, up in the Detroit area, who's monitoring with some other groups that are part of the Attorneys for Trump organization. They're just there monitoring, making sure that things get done correctly. And you're going to see wagons and other
a wheel-wed wagon.
Strange implements. So it's either a horror movie or something worse.
Wow. You wouldn't be able to trust that just because some ballots could fly off the back. That's a guy in a WrestleMania t-shirt with a KB Toys wagon.
Wow. So he's
I was
bringing
joking
these...
about the radio flyer.
No, but yeah, you're right.
That's the radio flyer.
You got the nice brand on brand.
Yeah, the good thing, that's name brand.
Good for him.
Wow.
They spent the extra $20.
So think of the different points here where there's no security. There's no security. First off, we have no idea how these things got into the van. There's no one there right now escorting him from the van. there's no one meeting him as he brings it into there. Like, you would think that there should be a human conveyor belt of people. It should look like American Gangster when they're all cutting the cocaine naked, so that you're sure they don't have anything in their pockets. And this guy's just walking in. There isn't any kind of official there for hundreds of yards. He's just bringing in a wagon right there. And we
actually have her on air,
the person recorded, and we have more videos. So let's and her name is
Kelly Sorrell.
Kelly Sorrell. Kelly Sorrell, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us. Hey, look at this. Even after a long night, you look better than the people over there on CNN, and you actually have lighting and sound that functions. Kelly, I don't want to get this wrong here. My half-vision learner Bill is here. That was you videotaping this, and I don't want to be redundant, but I don't think this can be stressed enough. This was happening in one of the major areas of Michigan, right, in Detroit. We just watched one video where a guy was bringing it in a red wagon, these ballots. Explain to me what you saw and why you brought it to half-vision Bill's attention and officials. Why is this so concerning?
Well, I actually went up there. All the polls were closed, and I went up there after we had all gotten back to the hotel. I was kind of watching the news and decided I was going to go check on, it's called Kobo. And so I thought I'd go downtown and check out how the absentee ballots were being counted and see if they were still counting, because I had actually heard on the news that they weren't going to be counting anymore.
That's exactly. So we were doing the election stream all night. And keep in mind, getting to that point, when we were about to go to bed, they said we're going to reconvene. I think they said at 9 a.m. or they said at 10 a.m. And then all of a sudden, an hour later, there was a huge jump in Michigan for Biden. So yes, we were there last night. People can corroborate it. 8 million people watched. They said no more counting, and that's when he started filming this video, right?
Well, yeah, and so as soon as I heard that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go down there and just check and make sure that they actually are cutting it off. Because I would hate people to leave or not be down there checking on things and they be doing something shady. So I went down and I actually got in, and they screened me for COVID. They took my temperature, made sure I had my mask. I kind of roamed around, and I was like, I'm going to go grab some coffee and then come back and park for the night, because they were active. So I left, and as I was walking out the door, I see this white van pull up. And as I stopped for a second, turned on my phone, you saw the video where I kind of like walk around, and I see he's pulling out like an old radio flyer wagon and is like connecting it, and then I get in the car and I see him like drop the box. And that was pretty much, we had worked polling stations for the night, and that's, you know, very similar to the box that we had seen and been watching and monitoring to make sure that got locked and removed from the polling stations, put in vehicles, and driven to the secure locations.
Right.
So it was just one of those where I was like, that's kind of weird. So I went and grabbed my coffee, came back, and just was sitting and just observing. I tried to go in. I'm not a Michigan resident, so I'm not allowed to actually go and roam around on the floor.
Right.
But I could observe. It was glass window. I could observe. There was no security at the door. Nobody was checking bags or credentials or, you know, who was coming in, even identification, anything. People were just able to go in. I'm assuming if they were actually counting ballots, they would get something somewhere.
Right.
But just for regular folks, and there were other attorneys in our group that actually got in later and just roamed the floor.
Yeah, one sec. Mute their mics over there just for right now, because right now we can hear them typing. Okay, so that was the first video, and I understand that we have some other videos as well, if I'm not mistaken. Correct there, Quarter Black Carrot? So can you tell us what the next video will be? Quarter Black Carrot, give us a description, and then we'll go to our
It looks like we're inside of the area.
Inside of the building.
inside of the building. Okay, so we're going to watch this here. Stay with us. I just want to make sure that people can see this, so we can sort of give people a visual aid. Let's show the inside of the building. Okay, so this is where they were going inside, and that's where they're supposed to be counting those ballots, I assume. And so, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of your lovely guest here. Kelly. Right here, can you turn on the volume on the clip a little bit? So Kelly, right here we see them coming in suitcases. Is this the same place in the area where they are now? Is that where you saw them bringing in the red wagon? Because in here it looks like there are quite a few people. That's a ballot counting operation.
So I can't really tell which video clip you're looking at, but so it's basically like a convention center, the building that we're in. So there's where we came in, or where I came in, was kind of up on the upper level, and then you go down, and there's entrances for everyone, and they're dragging luggage, they're dragging bags, they're dragging igloo, like ice chest. They're there doing 5 to 6 hour shifts, and yeah, I mean, they were taking those items in with them into the clear glass windowed room that's to the back, and that's the area I couldn't cross into. So
Yeah, they have like so many
weren't
bags
able
and
to
like
go.
giant, like
So, yeah,
filled
the-
bags.
the
Like no one has a
glass
purse
area,
that
the
looks like a
back is where
box.
They would go through to go into
And a lot of the bags that they have are just, like, packed.
Area, and they would come in from outside and bring those items into that secure area that's in the back where they actually have the ballots.
And that's where they were counting, and this is at that time when we had been told they had stopped counting. They weren't supposed to be counting.
Correct, and the concern was just the security concern. We don't really know what was going on with, or what items they were bringing in, or who was going in, or any of those things.
Look at that.
So what is your primary, how does this differ from the normal experience, at where they would count ballots? Do people, right now what we're seeing is people bringing in by themselves with no security, red wagons and Coleman coolers, bringing them behind the glass area where no one has access. How does that differ from how ballot counting should look, or how it usually looks? Because keep in mind, for a lot of people, they've never seen any of this at work.
Well, I would think you could kind of look at how we vote, right? I mean, we go into
They're all
a
going
polling
inside
location,
now.
It's very formal. There's a process.
All
to
these
go
people with
through.
all
They
these
check
bags
your
going
identification.
straight to the back where they're holding the ballots.
Validate who you are,
All of those
verify that
people.
you're
Look at those
personally
bags.
eligible to
Look at
vote,
that bag right there that that lady has.
you're in the right
That,
area.
look at all these bags.
So,
They all
you know,
have
I
the
would
same
think
They
that-
all have giant filled bags going straight to the back where all the ballots are. Why?
is protected.
At the time that they weren't supposed to be
You would
there.
think that our end
Why?
result would have the same
I thought you were supposed to stop counting at 10.
You don't see that here. And so the difference is basically they're just letting whoever in with whatever items. They're
Look at
not
that.
verifying any of
One by one. Just let them in. Just let them in all. Dudes with backpacks larger than mine. Coolers.
So what would be the risk?
What do you need a
here?
cooler for?
Walking in with no stop. Here, hold on. We're gonna have my half Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond, here come in.
Look, lady has 2 bags. That lady has
What
2
appear to be
bags.
giant, Santa sacks, or they're walking in with pillowcases full of something. We see people walking in with coolers. What I guess is your concern? They could be walking in with fake ballots. They could just,
They've got this, absolutely. I mean, this is a battleground state. We came up here to Michigan to help Trump because this is a
Just
state
letting them in like
that's
nothing.
under fire. This is one that we needed to be monitoring for fraud.
So many
And
bags.
it's hard to
So
monitor
many
for fraud when
bags.
nobody's checking.
yeah.
When I went, all I had was my envelope with my ballot in it.
They're
I just
checking
have my
once you
purse.
pass the glass.
That's it.
I don't know if someone would argue that.
They're not. They go in, they roam
My
around,
purse
they
barely
sit
fits my
down.
phone and my wallet.
I don't know what else.
Yeah, you didn't go with a whole knapsack filled with
Now the
who knows what.
lunchbox.
Not with a lunchbox, several coolers.
Lunchbox that looks like my
But
dad would
at the
own.
very least,
Yeah.
a very
Freaking
clear
Walmart
appearance
bags.
of a problem. And given how many concerns,
Giant
we have,
coats.
particularly in Democrat-controlled jurisdictions, about election
Look at all those
security,
bags.
you imagine that the most heightened election security concerns we've ever had, highlighted for weeks and weeks, on the day of the election in a battleground state in one of the largest precincts in
More coolers. This dude's rolling a cooler.
at a time when the ballots are coming in. Now, again, the ballots, it's not like all of a sudden, a million Biden votes happened right after these igloos went in, but rather
More backpacks,
very
more
clearly,
bags.
At the least,
Yeah.
we've got a lack of security that raises questions about the
Giant
election
plastic
itself.
bag filled with what? I couldn't even tell. It had a bunch of sharp corners, and all of it looked white.
Who's in there?
Well, this is also by listen, as someone who has spent quite a bit of time in Detroit, you have more security.
Oh, look at that. More white bags filled with blockiness. Like just blocky
There's
items.
nobody checking.
Almost like, I don't know, lumps of
And at
folded
what time
paper.
was this, were these videos taken approximately, Kelly?
Sure,
That was
totally.
Actually, ironically, the issue with Wisconsin came in.
This lady has 2 bags.
All of that where you see most
2
of them,
bags, one on each arm.
shift change at 4:30.
Just let her right
Because
strolling.
you know what, we
wonder what they're gonna do
we
about
had to
this.
end the stream,
I hope
was
they
it
do something.
right about 4 o'clock? Right about 4 o'clock in the morning. is
Oh
when
well,
we
Gabby,
ended. When I was sitting
CNN's not talking about it, so it's
And they
not
said, "We're
gonna.
going to
They're not gonna do
reconvene
anything about
today
it.
and count."
A cooler, a whole freaking rolling cooler. Is everyone gonna get some Capri Suns in the back?
Michigan had entirely
Yes.
Are they all thirsty?
Right at that
They're
time.
all just gonna have one big party.
They're gonna have a big party back there?
Was, what the heck, you know, all I.
When they're not supposed to be there anyways? Supposed to start counting at 10?
People just say, well, that's also because all these votes are just Wayne
It's
County.
just lunchtime. It's just.
It's lunchtime?
They're just bringing their lunch, man.
Look at those, more rolling bags, more bags.